As far as my personal experience goes, the vast majority of DC or Marvel fans have a similar misconstrued notion in regard to supervillains, and that of course results in poorly crafted villains to exist. This misconception of a good villain is a freaking powerhouse that properly reflects and contrasts the hero's idealism, and is an evolved version of the hero. I feel like I don't really need to get into examples of this, as it's the vast majority of supervillains altogether, especially in recent years. The "I must take over the world / kill the hero" cliche is painful, but hey, we can still make him a terrifying villain. Let's just make him insanely overpowered. Yeah, that makes the threat crazy high. Must be a good villain. I've mentioned it in an old video, but being powerful is a stat, not a character trait, and powerful alone is no evidence towards good character writing. So when I start my character analyses, I usually like grounding the video's premise with a slightly off-topic approach that can obviously relate to the character at hand. This is a slight exception to that notion because Slade is an exception to the supervillain rules. I'd like to get across exactly how highly I think of Teen Titans Slade as potentially the greatest DC arc villain of all time, with exception to the Dark Knight Joker, and that's a maybe. Or at least maybe that's just as far as I know. Feel free to let me know your opinion below and subscribe if you enjoy my OP analysis videos, or maybe Teen Titan analyses in the future and want more. I was overly excited to make this video because Slade does not fall into any of the pre-existing archetypes of supervillains, and in a completely different fashion to how the Joker doesn't either. Let's be honest, the Joker's gonna get his own video, so I'm not gonna delve into him too much here. I'm just too hyped for a potential OG Teen Titans revival to not make a video on one of my top 3 characters from one of my top 3 nostalgia blasts. So here you go. Obviously, the classification to villain archetypes could be broken down as many times as there are villains, but if I'd have to break it down into 2 groups, it would be the A, the ideologically or philosophically complex villains, i.e. the Thanos villains, and B, the Hulk smash villains, i.e. the Doomsday villains. I'm obviously coming to allude that the first group is comprised of rather better written villains, and the second group is less awesome villains, to put it nicely. And of course, Group B has a far larger population of villains altogether. Now, the Joker is an obvious exception to this classification system altogether. He does not fall squarely into either of these categories, whereas Slade is an extremely not obvious exception as well, and I find almost no thought to be given to his overwhelmingly amazingly written character. But I'll go a step further, because while the Joker's philosophy is complex, we kind of understand his goals nonetheless. His goal is chaos, so every little bit of chaos that he causes is a little victory on his part. He puts Batman into the ultimate double trap. If the Batman does not kill the Joker, well then, Joker wins the metaphysical battle, because Joker ain't dead. If Joker gets Batman to kill the Joker, on the other hand, Joker still wins the philosophical battle. Batman had to forsake his individual philosophy and kill. That said, we still don't understand Slade at all, even less than Joker. His plans are more intricately fine-tuned than any of his contemporary villains, and the next stage of his master plan is never even alluded to until the previous step is properly completed. Because of this, we never knew what his end goal was, and therefore we can never fully understand his motives. Of course, without his motives, we can also never fully understand his philosophy. Even though it's obvious from the choices he's been making, it's no conventional take over the world shtick, and he therefore possesses some form of interesting ideology. It's just an ideology that can't really be uncovered before it's too late. Since the Titans beat him before it was too late, it hasn't been too late. We don't know his ideology. Now, before continuing, whilst cackling at the genius of Slade, how he has a brilliant philosophy, but we just can't know what it is, which is total bullshit character writing, and I call people out on it all the time, I'm still going to argue that this, in Slade's particular scenario, will not lump him into the category of motiveless villains. And that's because in his particular case, if we were to understand the ideology of Slade, he would lose 3/4 of the character writing that went into him. Slade's a fascinating character on his own right, don't get me wrong, but his influence on the narrative is what makes him truly one of the greats. On one hand, I can kinda see why he would be lumped into the motiveless villain category, merely acting as a catalyst to drive our protagonists, especially Robin, forward in the overarching story. I still feel like people don't realize that shallowing out his character to an extent and making his motives less black and white thematically saves the narrative that he's built to be integrated within. And that is the perfect segue into the next branch of the video. The theme of this vid is his overall character, but it's also kinda how to make a weak villain feel to the viewers completely overpowering. Strength-wise, he's a slightly stronger Robin. Almost every single villain the Titans face, even the one-episode lackeys, are stronger than Slade in a straightforward fight. Yet as far as terrifying villains go, Slade towers over all of them. He's kind of like the anti-Batman in the story, and it would do well to keep that analogy in mind for an upcoming aspect of this video. He doesn't fight with might. Every single course of action he takes is completely psychological, making him not only unpredictable and duly terrifying as an enemy, but that's why the Titans are completely unaware of his philosophy, because the power of the unknown only deepens the effectiveness of his psychological attacks throughout, which remains as his distinct fighting style and how he stands out from contemporary antagonists. There is an issue with a psychological fighting style though, and it's an issue we see unfortunately more often than not. While the Titans face off enemies without knowing Slade was secretly pulling the strings, except of course for the slight clues Slade purposely left behind for Robin to track, we, as the all-seeing viewers, saw Slade operating from the shadows the whole time. The impasse here is, when the viewers understand the situation at hand more than the protagonists were supposed to be following, either we're gonna get bored, or we perceive the protagonists as idiots and yell at them through the screen, hoping maybe we'd get them the info they need. Or well, maybe that's just me, come to think of it. But either way, if the psychological effect on the protagonists aren't reciprocated by us, that's really bad. But in Slade's case, he's really freaking good at it. And that's because just like Slade plays with the Titans' intellect, kind of plays with ours too. There's so much that can be learned about anyone by their surroundings, even more than necessarily realized at first glance, and that goes for all the greatest of villains everywhere. Griffith from Berserk is surrounded by a glowing light and enthralled followers, showing his insatiable lust for power and respect. Yoshikage Kira from JoJo's Part 4 lives in the most normal house ever, craving that normal lifestyle while having his hobby try to go his way. And of course, this doesn't only apply to uniquely spectacular villains. Overhaul from Hero Academia is a Yakuza, aka Japanese Mafia, and we get that from the vibes of his fam that's following him around. The League of Villains from Hero Academia are an underground evil organization, so they're staged in a bar. All for One isn't the healthiest beast on the planet, and he's got them medical tube things coming out of every orifice of his body, the poor bastard. And of course, every overpowered must become the most powerful creature in the universe villain, well, they're all sitting in their fancy thrones, surrounded by their humble, mumbling subjects, like Aizen from Bleach in Hueco Mundo, or Frieza from Dragon Ball Z in his ship. I'm sorry all my examples that I used so far were anime villains, they're just usually better villains. Oh! I almost forgot! Thanos! His HQ was a ravaged, meager place designed to maximize effectiveness and usefulness without that posh, egotistical exterior, because his character was portrayed to possess a noble, selfless goal. Phew, glad we finally got some supervillains. Anyway, back to Slade. He's got nothing. We learn nothing about the secretive bastard from his evil lair. Sorry, I evil laugh whenever I say evil lair. But Slade's lair is a hodgepodge of turning gears that don't seem to be doing anything. He maintains a psychological edge even against those meddling onlooking peeps watching the show. We know as little about him as the Titans do, but the gears do one better. Effective or not, they're there, and they serve the purpose to reveal Slade's narrative role to the viewers far better than your typically dimly lit evil lair. Damn it. It's obvious in hindsight that the gears symbolize an ingenious plan in play, with multiple moving parts that all need to be kept operating smoothly. Because if one gear stops, they all stop. And these gears ain't stopped, because Slade's plan is moving in motion and it's moving along properly. I don't usually bring up symbolism, but I'm kind of a sucker for it when it's used nicely, and I find that usually it's used not nicely and just trying to convey stupid messages, obviously, that aren't necessarily integral to the plot. But this was really nice. Really nice. I'm so happy to point this out in a video. I've been meaning to for a long time, and when do the gears finally stop moving? That's right. It's when Slade makes his first miscalculation in the entire narrative, Robin tricks the bastard, and they symbolically crumble along with Slade's plan. How cool is that? Anyway, everything I've really covered so far, granted in much more detail than originally intended, was the thematic background of Slade, without covering his major actions in the narrative itself. But once having this perspective of his character in mind, his presence throughout the series is plain and simple, yet simultaneously, fundamentally awe-inspiring. The first we see of him, he hires the Hive Elites to, quote, destroy the Teen Titans. Now, while hiring them, he tells the Hive that he doesn't really have an interest in destroying the Titans. It's just a little test to see how good the Hive guys are and if they'd be useful to him in the future. While in reality, he was not testing the Hive at all. He lied to the little bastards because he was using the Hive, for free of course, since of course this is just a test, not a mission, to test the Titans. That was the true motive. That means the Hive's failure isn't Slade's failure at all. They merely failed their test and aren't worthy of Slade. But Slade used them to not only test the Titans, but to leak his existence to them and begin seeping into their subconscious as a completely unknown force capable at potentially anything, with no fathomable understood goal in mind, because destroying the Titans was nothing more than an elaborate ruse. In this episode, without moving a finger, he was introduced psychologically manipulating the Hive and the Titans, where everything went exactly his way. This is just an example because almost every episode of this fashion, whether it was Lightning and Thunder, or every other episode with Slade sending lackeys to do his bidding, served a very similar purpose, slowly seeping deeper and deeper within the Titans' minds. So I really won't be going through all those episodes, but instead I'm gonna take a look at Slade's first obviously major victory, and that was in the episode titled Masks. The lowdown here is Slade somehow accidentally leaked info. Oh, Slade, how careless! He was going after these 3 heavily guarded computer chip things, and no one had any idea why. So, well, Robin decided, enough being a pawn in Slade's game. I'm a fool, the sly bastard. So unbeknownst to his allies, to maintain the facade, he adorns the mask of Red X, with weapons specifically designed to counter the Titans, breaching the security systems with ease and stealing the chips before Slade can, in order to fool Slade that he wants to join him and form an alliance. Through that, hopefully finally learning something about Slade. Because until this point, every move done by Slade was a long-term victory without revealing any of his intentions. Well, great thinking, Robin. Because not only did Slade know Red X's identity all along and played him like a fiddle, but Robin was also kind enough to steal all the chips for Slade. Not only that, he even took down the Titans on the way. How nice of him. Not only did he not fool Slade at all, give Slade what he wanted, but Slade psychologically destroyed Robin. Robin became exactly like Slade in this very moment, breaking the law, not trusting anyone, putting his personal goals above the moral ones, and that was the most crushing defeat anyone can ever face. Clearly in his own mind, becoming the monster he obsessed day in and day out of eradicating, and it was pretty clear that that's exactly what was plaguing him. A few episodes later, Beast Boy says, you know, just because we're trying to catch Slade doesn't mean you have to act like him, to which Robin completely loses it. Sorry, I'm getting so excited while recording this video. I'm having such a good time. I love this guy. This obviously, throughout the narrative, leaves Robin wallowing in self-doubt, and eventually when Slade blackmails him to become his apprentice, it's just built on the past experiences they shared, where Slade can finally fully embody the anti-Batman as an extra meaningful aspect as far as him being an antithesis to Robin's being. The whole idea behind Slade not getting his hands dirty, but getting a formerly good guy apprentice to do his dirty work is another form of psychological conquest. His first attempt was using Robin, not fully breaking his will, but assuming blackmail would be enough. It wasn't enough. Slade failed. Therefore, he adapted, because Slade don't fail twice in the same fashion. His second attempt was with Terra. He entirely took over her mind to the point that her will aligned with his. It's because of that she was far more useful to him, and it's only thanks to the love and compassion from Beast Boy that she was finally able to, after destroying everything, reconcile. Love and compassion were 2 menial attributes that Slade unfortunately overlooked, and that's where Slade died. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we don't know Slade's next step, and we therefore can't appreciate his philosophy until here. But it's not like his presence wasn't felt throughout the remainder of the series, because, well, trivial dilemmas like death don't undo traumatic experiences. In the 3rd season, we had one of the most powerful episodes of the series. All of a sudden, Slade's attacking Robin and continually overpowered the guy for days on end. But there was a catch. Slade should be dead. It's a bit of a catch, yes. Also, none of the other Titans can see Slade, and Robin was getting the snot beaten out of him constantly, and he was beginning to lose his mind. Many explanations were attempted, but despite the slightly open-ended result of this mystery, it's pretty clear that Slade was never there at all. Yeah, he was dead. But Robin was suffering from some kind of PTSD, paranoid schizophrenia, going to show how ridiculously successful Slade really was in his psychological attacks. They took hold within his mind and within his subconscious, and they exist within Robin until this very day. Season 4! Slade's back, fam! Demon King Trigon was nice enough to need an able-bodied servant. He's way stronger than Slade, so he's not worried about Slade betraying him or anything, and Slade knows his way around town. Perfect match! Well, except Slade only worked for Trigon just long enough until the right time to ally up with the Titans and betray him. Ha! Tricked you, Satan, you stupid red bastard! And then when season 5 came around, he was back to his former shenanigans. He was one of the only villains in the series that did not join the Brotherhood of Evil, and his actions were totally ambiguous throughout, especially in in the final episode of the series, which I will not spoil just in case it didn't spoil enough for you until here. So, needless to say, since he was in the last episode of Season 5, I am freaking hyped for Season 6. So, beauties and gentle beauties, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave a like, if you did like, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis or lighthearted sarcastic satire, either covering anime or really anything else I feel like doing. Also, let me know in the comments, because the fan base is in control of the Taku channel more than the Taku is. If you want more Teen Titans videos or other American comic stuff, whatever, I have what to say. I'm eager to say it. Let me know also. Also, if you like Teen Titans and you want an awesome video catching you up on the whole series, link in the description to Low Art's Teen Titan video. It's actually really solid, and definitely remember to annoy him in the comments and send my love. Link is in the description to my Twitter. Feel free to follow me there for updates and unlimited memeing ability. Links also to my merch, which would be awesome if you'd pick up, and my Patreon. Clicking any of those would be greatly appreciated, and all patrons are invited to my Discord server, no matter how much you donate. Speaking of, huge thanks to the patrons helping me so far, especially the Swag Hoggers, Sage of Snake, Lazy Ronin, JD Fincher, Elaser, Sash, Axel, Rari, MDQ, Praise Lord Gilgamesh. Amen. He'll probably be getting a video. Hope you're hyped. Zindergarden, Sergeant Malarkey, JTK75, Miku, and TMFilly. Also thanks to the Lord Tweegers, Grumpy Welshman, Large Blob, Tyler Schumacher, Zombie Nisha, Gavin Anderson, and Carlos Altamirano. Also huge thanks to the God Who's Top Rank, Zachary Whitley, Dark Element, Yokai, and Maurice Louis Dreyfus. I'm sorry if I screwed up your name, but everything that all you guys do is greatly appreciated. Thanks for sticking around till here. Anyone who watched this video, looking forward to see you in the next one. Have yourself a most wonderful evening, and remember to stay weird, fam.